Welcome to Hello Universe,
where perinatal peeps come for more evidence, more clarity, and fewer WTFs. We're Jen and Heidi, labor nurses, educators, and research obsessives, here with you in podcast form.
From deep dives to surprising rabbit holes, we're here to help you think differently about the work you do every day.
Let's launch.
Hello, Universe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome
for episode 2.
Last episode, we were talking about what is evidence-based care because we got a DM from somebody who follows us.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I've been marinating on this question a little bit more. And so I want to talk about it. I had a few more thoughts, and I know you're going to have a few more thoughts too. So just to refresh everyone's memory, they asked us, what if there is risk, right? Like we're worried about our patient, but I don't have the evidence or like the science words to have that conversation. And, every nurse is certainly at some point in their career felt that. As I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, I think what they're really saying is, I'm concerned, but how do I communicate in a way where I'm going to be taken seriously? And there's this real hierarchy that nurses, I think, at least perceive, whether it's real or not, that's going to be unit specific and person specific. But there's a real hierarchy and this real oh, I need to have these articles ready to just bam, whip them out and cite chapter and verse kind of a thing. And I don't really see that that's been the most helpful for me in my practice.
I mean, I don't think so with mine either. I don't really remember ever having to necessarily have articles in my locker or anything to whip out. But I think that people sort of default to that because when some nurses start questioning a provider, some of them default to, well, this study says XYZ. And I think nurses are always looking for a point of connection or for a point of community. And they think that, well, that's how their brain works. That's how they speak. That's what I need to do. Because we hear that all the time when we're teaching or whatever. Someone in the audience always asks us, could you provide me with a study so that I can print it out and take it and show the providers I work with?
Yeah. Oh, well, that happened yesterday when we were teaching speedy delivery.
Yeah.
What was the question? It was we talk about the uterus and uterine contractions and speedy delivery, and the contractions, as contractions get closer together, they do get weaker. There's an inverse relationship. And now there's a sweet spot between wanting to have enough contractions to move things forward, but not get them so close that suddenly, oxygen can't get to the muscle and blood, and then lactic acid can't flow out. And she's like, well, where's our research study? And it's like, babe, that's just
science.
That's just physiology.
It's
just literally
that's
how
just
it
in
works.
The textbooks.
I mean, so I actually did think about that. I was like, I think it actually probably goes back to Caltreo-Bercea's research from Montevideo.
Mm-hmm.
That's we're digging stuff up from the 50s.
Yeah.
And, I think I do get that they want to be taken seriously, but it's do y'all not just make it all the way through a whole nursing school program? What did you think those were? Those were science words. And so
we don't give ourselves enough credit a lot of the time.
We don't. So I was really thinking how could we make this a little bit easier? And I feel like the first step is always just recognize, what am I actually looking at and seeing? I'm seeing minimal variability, or I'm seeing contractions that are too close together. And then you can interpret it. But we do, because we're doing so much stuff is coming into our brains at once, especially when we're at the bedside, is we tend to want to jump through it quickly and put all of the information. But we really got to look at just what is this one piece? Oh, now I see it's this. Okay, what does that mean? And now what do we have to do? Okay, maybe all we have to do is turn the patient. Oh, I've stepped back, given myself that a little bit more perspective. But yeah, no one should be pulling up up to date at the bed. We don't have time for that. Maybe you can if you have a slow moment, but
yeah, I don't know. I think part of that too is because as nurses, and especially in the specialty that we're in, we're always thinking 3 steps ahead. And so I think we kind of go to oh man, if I turn the Pitocin down, they're going to be upset. I'm going to get an email from my manager. The provider's going to come. They're going to be mad at me. I got to have a defense rather than just like you said, pushing pause, zooming out, being like, huh, what if I just turn them, give them a fluid bolus, I have my pit, and see what happens,
I was told
you
by a
know?
mentor, like, I think pretty early in my career, and this, because I'm someone who learns best when I'm able to like teach something. So I will understand something, but like it's not until I get to explain it to someone else that it really like cements for me.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are that way. Nurses are that way. And I think that's why I do tend to do a lot more patient teaching than I certainly did when I was new. It's that like that reinforcement. But this mentor told me at the beginning of like my teaching, educator role career with like teaching A1 fetal monitoring or classes like that is if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Hmm.
I like it in some ways, but not in the other, is that I like it as though as permission to not need to start like citing molecular biology or,
Yeah.
if you can explain something to your patient, right? You're not dumbing it down, but like can you make this idea digestible? And that's because when maybe other members of the team or other clinicians, they're bringing out those studies because they think, oh, if I can use enough big words, people will think I know what I'm saying. And we know
And we know that's not the case.
that's not
Yeah.
always the case.
Yeah.
Just throwing a word salad of large multi-syllabic words out at
Mhm.
somebody will shut you down.
Yeah, and a lot of times the things that they say, at least when I've heard providers say, "Oh, well, this study XYZ, whatever," it's like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" Really? Like, for example, I had one provider that was giving this nurse just a really, really hard time. I was charged, and she's like, I can't keep upping my pit, and I've had to turn it off a couple of times." And he was just adamant that she could still have it on. And she's like, he's telling me that like there are all these studies that say it's fine, blah, 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 blah. So I end up having a little conversation with him. And he's like, well, show me. Then he asked me to show him a study saying that where minimal variability is bad. And I'm like, well,
Dust off the
really?
textbooks. Right. Yes.
So I think you got to kind of question them back a little bit. And I think that's what we kind of get a little bit scared of is then when they're saying, oh, this study here, then it's, yeah, exactly what you're saying, that it like puts off this persona that they are smarter than us or whatever, and kind of goes back to that hierarchy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not the case everywhere. There are, plenty of places, and I feel like
Yeah.
where I'm at and where you're at, we can have like good conversations with the providers and it doesn't feel like that hierarchy, but I know that that isn't the case everywhere. And so I think if we can just kind of ease the road for people a little bit and help them have a little bit more confidence in their journey, then it's going to be easier to have those conversations and not get lost in the sauce so
Yeah.
much.
We're looking for understanding, not, a bibliography that you can
Right.
pull out. Yeah. I mean, I would say that that's definitely how conversations tend to go where we work is like we're trying to get to like mutual ground. And so
Mhm.
thinking back to that like evidence-based practice funnel is like you have to input all of the, latest research, but also the old physiology, right? There is this idea that like a less than 5-year-old randomized control trial is always going to trump everything else, right? We
Yes.
don't repeat studies over and over. If it's settled science or if it's just basic physiology,
Mhm.
there is not going to be an RCT on that or a systematic review or a meta-analysis or whatever.
Right.
But it was so drilled in. It's like to write your paper, yeah, you got to be citing some,
Current stuff.
current stuff. We get
Yeah.
that. And part of that best research is your textbooks, your basic physiology. That's why you take pharmacology, all that stuff. So I do think nurses have a good basis of what those science words are. But then that we get to that middle part where I think it's really like those rich, great conversations and where I'm putting my experience, you're putting your experience, provider, midwife, whoever, and then those choices are ultimately, presented to the patient based on like their input and stuff. And so the funnel for evidence based practice funnel is meant to keep everyone moving to the point where the patient's making a choice that's best for them. It's not meant to be like some weird battleground.
Mhm.
And now, back to that quote, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. Like there are things that are complicated, like,
Mhm.
but it's putting in the time to understand it will allow us to like have those conversations, I think, a little bit more smoothly. And obviously, reading one research study can't give you the deep level of understanding that like we're all working towards. We picked
Right.
this job for a reason.
Yeah. And I think too, when you said job, we were talking about this the other day about how it is a job, but you also have to treat it like a career in terms that you're
Mhm.
investing into it. You're investing in your education and your skill and those sort of things so that you're enhancing your tools. And that's how you're going to get better and stay
We're just looking for those
current.
little gold
Yeah.
nuggies, man.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
what we want.
Yeah, I mean, it is truly lifelong, and I like that idea of it's not a job, it's a career. It is a
Mhm.
professional endeavor. When I was like a new nurse, I think one thing that would have been helpful is nobody was telling me you can read a book or you can learn something. It wasn't until I started becoming actually interested in expert witness work, and the person who I was asking was like, "Well, what do you think makes an expert?" And of course, it's one of those questions that you're like, "I should know that. I should be able to answer that.
Mhm.
What is an expert?" And what she told me was, it's just somebody who knows more than almost everybody else on this topic. And there's no rules to that, right? Like you can become an expert on any topic if you read, you dive into the research, you go to classes, right? There's no degrees in
Right.
expertise.
And I
A
think that's
degree will help,
interesting.
but
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective because I think the knee jerk response to that is someone who's had 20 years or the sort of thing that we really associate expertise with years in the field.
right.
And that doesn't always translate.
It's not a
It's not a
rule.
given. It's not a
No.
rule.
No, a rule is the bar is, do you know a lot about a topic? I mean, it is going to take some amount of time, but like,
Right.
is there some sort of, there's no gold medal that gets handed out for expertise at like 20 years or 10 years or 7 years, 6 years, five.
Yeah.
I mean, we put people in charge of a whole unit a year, like one or two, it sounds like these days, which is,
Yeah.
different than it was. But
I mean, that happened to me about a year and a half in.
I was 6 months in working my first job on med surg. They tried to make me a charge nurse, and I was like, "What hallucinogenics is this manager on
Yeah.
that I'm at all equipped?"
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
Here you are.
I know.
So just to remember, if you're feeling nervous, you're feeling like something is a risk or isn't safe, what you're really thinking is like, I'm worried about my patient. And it's
Mhm.
not about sounding smart. It's about being able to pause and think clearly and work through that, like recognize, interpret, act with just a beat of time so that you can act when it really matters.
Yeah. And I think that's just like the big hitter there. And just like you said earlier, just really describing what you're actually seeing. Like, I've had minimal variability for X amount of time, and these are the things that I've done, and I'm concerned about XYZ. And I think just being really clear cut really goes a long way, other than just saying, I don't like how this is, and not giving a whole lot of information behind it.
Yeah. You got this.
You got this. We're here for you.
Yeah. If you don't got this, we got you.
Hmm.
So stick with us, and we're going to keep working our way through all of the evidence-based research, moves, grooves, and whatnot. And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Hello Universe.
For more evidence, clarity, and community, head to universe.com and follow us on TikTok and Instagram at hello.universe.
Nursing is wild. Practice with confidence.